Welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one from Lisa Chamberlain. So this is Wicca Crystal Magic, A Beginner's Guide to Crystal Spellcraft. Again, I love her books. So far I've loved every single one. I want to get all of hers. She is such a good writer. The artwork from the publishing house that she eventually went through is beautiful. Like, just look at it, it's so pretty. So this is yet another hit from her. Obviously, it's about crystal magic. She talks about various ones, crystals, stones, rocks, all of the above. Like, the geologists out there are going to be nitpicky. But for most witches, we're just like, it's a crystal or a stone, if you need to be, you know, like, really, whatever you want to call it. The stuffs that we use in our craft all the time. So this book is really good because, again, with Lisa Chamberlain, she talks about like the mundane stuff and the magical stuff. She talks about ethically sourced, how to know. One thing I will say though is that she's like, well, you need to talk to like your like witchy shops to find out, and if they don't know or if they hesitate, like that's a red flag. I worked at a witchy shop, very first job. Let me warn you that like not every employer is going to tell every employee about everything. So like I would have that occasionally. Not necessarily with crystals, though the guy that she would get her stuff from was like honestly like kind of sketch. On like the like business, like, you know that type. You know the dude who walks in and is just like, if you found out he had tax fraud, you wouldn't be surprised. That type of dude coming into a witchy shop. And so like, I don't know. I wasn't privy to know if he was an ethically sourcing dude. Like, I kind of trust, like, we have another shop out here in Utah that's all about rocks, and they're, like, way more down to earth and chill, and I would trust them to get more ethically sourced things, because a lot of the stuff, they go rock hunting themselves to find, because we live in mountains, we has a lot of options here. Like, I think Topaz, we have, like, Topaz Mountain out here that, like, you can just, like, go grab rocks. So, like, anyways. But to think that because they hesitate and or don't immediately know the answer that it's a red flag, not necessarily. Unless you're talking to the owner and or the person who does the purchasing, don't always assume that. Because I had that where like, honestly, again, it's the Norse community more often than not, would come in and be like, well, who made these? I need to know the exact person and if they're handmade or if they're manufactured and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, I don't know. I just cleaned the glass that they are behind. I don't know, I can find out. But that's not a me question, that's a somebody else question. So just like, remember, if somebody hesitates or they don't know, that person might not even be working that day. You might have to wait for an answer. Just be aware, because not every employee is going to know every single answer in that shop. 90% of the time, your job is to make sure things get paid for before they get out that door and that they don't get broken whilst you were in the store. Other than that, the more you know, the better, but like, that's mostly your biggest concerns when you work in a witch shop. It's not as magical and like, ooh, it's so wonderful. It's just a normal job like any other kind, and you have some strange conversations with other people because of course you do. So that said, other than that, I loved this book. Her spells are so simple but effective. And like, there's always a handful from her books that I'm like, I gotta make sure I have that. Honestly, all of hers I think would be great to have as a reference to go to when you need to do a spell. The only thing is that personally I like mine to rhyme. After reading it from Dorothy Morrison and the way she worded it, I need it in all of mine. But anyways, there's a few of these that I was like, ooh, instantly, I gotta write these down so I don't list them, because again, I will eventually buy this book, don't get me wrong, and it's just for obviously my own personal craft. But like, there's ones that it's like, to buy a new house, like there's a house blessing spell that it's like, oh, I loves it, because it has this thing where like you have like an amethyst crystal that you do this whole thing with, and then you leave it in like a prominent spot in your house. And I'm like, I love that. I would personally want to go get a very fancy one, save up a little bit, get a fancy one, a big one, instead of my little tiny pebble ones, and have that. But obviously you don't have to do that. But my husband and his mom were huge rock people, so we have a bunch. Ironically, I don't think we have a big one for amethyst. We have a couple, I think. At least one for Scherzies, maybe two, of like the giant point clear quartz that are absolutely gorgeous. We just haven't had room in our current house for them because there's a lot. There's like an entire giant tub filled with individually wrapped rocks. So eventually we will get there. But like there's just a lot of like really easy to do spells. I love her work. She always mentions stuff. She talks about like, hey, did you know that sunlight isn't always a good idea? Please research whatever rock you're using before you leave it in the sun because it will get bleached. And same with water, that it can make the water toxic and or the stone will just dissolve. Like she includes that information along with like how to actually use crystals if they are water safe and things like that. So just like overall, even though these books are so flipping tiny, they really have all the information you need. There is no extra fluff in here. Like we just get to the point and it is so good. Again, I want to own all of her books. I hope she continues to write. She covers every topic so well. Like I can see why she is a very successful author because it's like, dude, you know how to write? So anyways, highly recommend this book if you're interested in crystals. This is a really good place to start. And of course, a huge thank you to my patrons. I'll put their names over here. If you would like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Also, speaking of books, I has mine coming out very, very soon. This is going to be coming out early August. I don't have an exact day yet. As of recording this, I'm still working on some edits. But this is my book. It's coming out very soon. This is The Death Journey. This is all about working through death as a witch. It is a practical guide. We're talking about the mundane stuff alongside the magical. There's a lot of crap you have to deal with when somebody dies. It is not just, oh, we're gonna have a meditation to help them cross over the rainbow bridge kind of a thing. It's also like, are you gonna help with hair and makeup afterwards, or is that outside your comfy zone? How do you write an obituary? Are you going to bless the headstone? There's a lot of stuff that you can do as a witch when it comes to death, and I'm hoping this is going to be a fantastic resource for a lot of witches because there really isn't a lot on the topic, and inevitably you will have to deal with death at some points. That's just inevitable of life, or somebody around you will have to deal with it. Regardless, like this is something I think hopefully everyone will enjoy. Well, maybe not enjoy, but need maybe? I don't know. I hope it will be helpful. We'll just leave it at that. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.